Hi there, this is Dr. Evan Osar with the Institute for Integrative Health and Fitness Education. Thank you so much for joining us in this special 4-part series on working with clients that have either rotator cuff and or labral tears of their shoulders. Because there's so many of your current clients that are experiencing range of motion issues, tightness, and or weakness, and or can't do a lot of the exercises or activities of everyday life that they need to and or want to related to rotator cuff and or labral tears. And if you don't know if your client has rotator cuff and or labral tears, then many clients that have instability of their shoulder, like true instability of the ball in the socket, the glenohumeral joint, or they have difficulties getting the arm overhead, let's just assume for a moment, for purposes of this series, that they do have a tear and or issues with their labrum and or rotator cuff. Because whether your client does and or does not, but they're having range of motion issues and or chronic stability issues and or chronic tension around their shoulder joint here and or even into their neck, many of the same strategies and assessments that we use with those individuals, you'll use with your clients that you know have rotator cuff and or labral tears of their shoulders. It's the same strategies I use to help my own shoulders with shoulder rotator cuff issues as well as labral issues, tears of both my labrums of both shoulders. So this information will apply to your clients and hopefully help you become that expert that your current clients need, as well as attract more individuals that need and want your expertise. So in part 1, we looked at 2 simple assessments: flexion and internal and external rotation, as ways to determine how well your client is moving, their range of motion, how easy their motion is, as well as their symmetry side to side between the ranges of motion. And we said that frequently when your clients have rotator cuff and or labral tears, they'll lose rotation range of motion as well as flexion, and especially internal rotation. And they'll compensate by throwing their shoulder forward when they don't have the ability to internally rotate their shoulder. So if you've missed that video, check that out. Now, once you've determined that your client has range of motion issues and stability issues around their shoulder, and they're compensating, especially by throwing their shoulder forward for that lack of internal rotation, we want to help them develop a strategy for aligning and controlling their shoulder complex, because that's really the essence of the integrative movement system corrective exercise paradigm that we operate under and that I'm sharing with you in this video series, is to help your client identify their non-optimal movement strategy and then help them create a more optimal strategy for alignment and control. So the exercise that we use, our go-to exercise for helping our clients reestablish more optimal alignment and control of the shoulder complex, and especially the scapular thoracic articulation, because when you're working with clients that have rotator cuff and or labral issues, you need to help them reestablish alignment and control of their scapula on top of the thorax. So the first part of your strategy is to release the chronically short, tight muscles. And muscles that chronically are overlooked, are overlooked and chronically short and tight, are teres major, teres minor, and infraspinatus. And teres minor and infraspinatus are external rotators of the glenohumeral joint. And if they're short and tight, that's the reason why your client will lose internal rotation, range of motion, and then have to throw their shoulder forward. So the first thing you want to do is release teres minor and infraspinatus so your client has more optimal or ability to get into internal rotation. Then you want to teach your client how to align and control that scapula, as we discussed previously. And our go-to corrective exercise for aligning and controlling the scapula and teaching your client how to move their arms independent of their scapula, or move the humerus independent of their scapula, is the pull apart with modified row pattern. I'll demonstrate that pattern next, and pay attention to how I specifically align my head and neck and my rib cage and my shoulder prior to doing the row, because we want our client to be able to pull and open up the shoulders as I'm demonstrating here. So this is essentially how I'm moving in the pattern. As the arms come out this direction, my arms come closer together, and as I pull wide. So that way, as your client is pulling the band, they're creating that alignment and control they need and want of their scapulo-thoracic articulation. So here's how the pattern looks. The band pull apart with row. Begin by having the individual align their head and neck over top their thoracopelvic cylinder. Maintain this alignment throughout the pattern. Grab the band, step back away from the attachment, pull in towards the shoulders. So the hands are moving from the midline of the body when the arms are extended to the shoulders, so just in front of the shoulders as the individual is pulling the band. They maintain that nice open and wide shoulder position throughout the pattern. Make sure your client controls the eccentric phase of the pattern as well as the concentric phase throughout the rowing motion. So that is the band pull apart and with a row added to it. So that way you're helping your client align and control their scapula, their shoulder blades on top of their thorax, and learn how to move their arms independent of their shoulder blades. The shoulder blades are moving, but they're learning how to control the shoulder blades as their arms are moving. Because this is essentially the motion that your clients need to do when they row, when they push, when they go overhead, and when they pull into an overhead or from an overhead position. So in the next video, I'm going to demonstrate how to incorporate this concept of being open and wide and controlling the scapula on top of the thorax during a common pulling exercise, the pull-up, which I believe is one of the fundamental pulling exercises our clients need to know how to do appropriately. And then also the push-up pattern, which is another common pattern that our clients need to understand and how to control, align and control their scapula during the pushing pattern. Because both these patterns are common exercises that lead into shoulder issues and perpetuate rotator cuff and labral issues. Tomorrow, I have a special video to share with you where I take an individual through a real quick assessment so you can actually see what is going on with many of our clients' scapula and how non-optimal alignment and control contribute to chronic rotator cuff as well as labral issues. So that way you're informed and can in turn inform your clients what's happening to their shoulder so you can more fully and more appropriately assess your clients and then choose the most specific and appropriate exercises for your clients so that you really become that go-to resource for your current clients and attract more individuals that need, want, and will pay you for your expertise. This is Dr. Evan Osar with the Institute for Integrative Health and Fitness Education. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in the next part of the series. Make it a great day.